Namaste, Andrew. Thank you so much for accepting our invite and being here with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you. Nice to meet all of your members and other people joining.
Thank you so much to all our audience and young viewers who are joining in from different parts of the country. It is really a delight to welcome each one of you in this Youth Ki Baat e-dialogue, realizing that this happens to be the 16th Youth Ki Baat e-dialogue that's happening today. And it's such a pleasure to welcome our very own recognized, known Mr. Andrew Fleming, who happens to be the Deputy High Commissioner to Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, starting his journey from 2017. His role includes about promoting business and trade between the UK and India's Telugu region and connecting with people on local issues. For example, Andrew participated in Swachh Bharat initiative to clean up Hyderabad and encouraged others to join as well. As the head of the Deputy High Commission, he has supported projects on community cohesion and interfaith, countering violence against women, human trafficking, child sexual abuse, fake news, and youth empowerment. Mr. Andrew joined the British Congress in 1986 and has held a variety of roles in the United Kingdom and abroad. He has worked very actively in Uganda, Ghana, and most recently in Nigeria, but has also worked on international policy issues in many parts of the world, including South Asia. Aside from many years working on the international migration issues, he has also advised ministers on cohesion and faith-based policy. He observed the elections in Ghana that happened in 2008 and Nigeria in 2015. In some countries, the Deputy High Commissioner leads to a subordinate office. I mean, just to give an overview of what Deputy High Commissioner office is all about. It's a subordinate office to the High Commissioner in another major city. And so a Deputy High Commissioner, as Mr. Andrew Fleming is, fulfills a similar role to that of Consul General representing the UK government and typically responsible for consular, visa and trade activities in the city or region. Apart from that, and Mr. Andrew is also a dialogue supporter and encourager and always wants to engage with more young people so that he could engage and understand what are the challenges that as a young person face and then share his experiences so that there could be a cohesive understanding and development of the entire community and surroundings. Thank you so much, Mr. Andrew, for accepting an invite once again.
Sure, my pleasure.
So today, as all of you are aware, that our dialogue and this e-discussion happens to be on what is the role of Youth of India and the role of United Kingdom in strengthening the bilateral relationships between two countries. I think it is very important to understand that both these nations share a great bond and a tie. And as we speak about India and United Kingdom together, we cannot overview and we cannot we cannot forget the fact that India and UK, in 2017 exported about $7 billion USD and imported about USD 3.4 billion. And recently, last year, if I remember rightly, the trade relations between India and UK happened to be about 24 billion pounds. And it is nothing that we can ever forget how both these nations together can do good together, because very recently the very dialogue that happened, I am aware that and we know about the JETCO, that is Joint Economic Trade Committee that happened between Mr. Futrell, Minister of Commerce and the State Secretary there, and it talked about how we have to maximize the potential of digital economies. And when we talk about digital economies, when we talk about digital India and the digital trade, it can only happen with the efforts of young people. Our Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave this clarion call of not only becoming Atmanirbhar, but also gave a clarion call of about digital India. And then he led it further, that it is about the young people of India today to take the digital India forward. And when we talk about digitalization, it is also important that how UK and India together would maximize its efforts so that there would be digital e-commerce opening up the trade not only for young people here, but across the globe around the community. And to understand more of it, I would now request Mr. Andrew, for whom you have been waiting to hear about. Mr. Andrew, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, and thank you again for reaching out and for the invitation. And from what a little I've seen about your group, it's a very active and very vibrant one, doing a lot of good work in a lot of different areas. this is exactly the kind of group that I like to meet and interact with. I think the youth of India are incredible and inspiring, and of course they're our future, the future of India, and also in many ways the future of the world. India is one of the UK's most important friends and allies. India's economy has grown by 9 times since India in 1988, which is an incredible statistic in itself. It's currently the 5th largest economy in the world, and it's destined to go only further up that league table in the future. Obviously, as you all know, it's also destined to overtake China as the most populous country in the world within not too many more years. So India is a true economic powerhouse that I believe, and my government believe, will define the 21st century. Bilateral relations matter, and we have embassies and high commissions, as is the case in India, because we're both parts of the Commonwealth, in many, many parts of the world, including every single one of the 54 Commonwealth countries. What I want to say, first of all, is that in India, our diplomatic footprint is the largest we have of any country in the world, which, bigger than we have with the US, bigger than we have with China. And that is a reflection of my government's belief in India, in its potential, in its future, in its importance. We have got, as well as our High Commission in Delhi, we have got deputy High Commissions, which some of you will better understand as Consul Generals. They're almost the same, in 7 Indian cities. I'll tell you, because you probably won't guess all of them, but you might. The 3 southern cities of Bangalore, Chennai, and of course where I am, Hyderabad. And then Mumbai and Calcutta. And the other 2 are Ahmedabad and Chandigarh. So 7 cities. And in addition, we have offices in Pune and Goa. So a network of 10 offices across the country. So that I can't underemphasize the importance of India in that respect. We employ nearly 1,000 people across India working on that really important bilateral relationship that we cherish most. And, the potential to grow and develop that relationship is really a rich one. And we're supported by our education agency, of course, which many of you will know, the British Council. The British Council also has representation spread across much of India, and even if it doesn't have a presence where you are, it does have an online membership and an opportunity to engage in that way. And I'm told that the online offering of access to different publications and online books, etc., is really quite exceptional. So I can commend that if you're interested specifically in the UK. And of course, they're our agency that are responsible for education. And I think that in the last 3 years, we've seen the number of students that have chosen to go and study in the UK increase by 97%, which is a huge number. And that's partly a result of positive changes in our policy on mobility for young people, i.e. visas. In the introduction, it was said that I led on visas in Hyderabad. I have to say that isn't really true. We have a visa operation that covers all of India operating out of Delhi. And it's operated by our Home Ministry, as you would call it, the Home Office, as I call it. In fact, that's where I started my career in 1986. So a very long time ago indeed, probably before many of you were even born.
We are not even born, Andrea.
Exactly, not even born. So that is an area that I have some background in, but I'm afraid that my knowledge on all things visas is too much. I have a few things to say about visas at some point in the hour, which I will share, because I know there's always questions around that. And then there's always other opportunities. I mean, our trade and our research, in which we collaborate very strongly in both areas, and I see that trajectory is only going to grow stronger in the future. And then around issues that we both care about. I mean, India, in terms of believing in the global rule system, has put itself forward again to be a member of the UN Security Council for the years of 2021 and 2022, which is fantastic. India and the UK are on the same page in many areas, and I hope that these 2 years will further deepen our areas where we can collaborate as a force for good, for a better world. And then, of course, there is the COP26, which the UK is hosting at the end of November, inshallah, subject to how the pandemic, etc., pans out. But we're due to host it in Scotland in 2026, in the city of Glasgow. We're already, as a network, working on that, engaging on that. Here in Hyderabad, we've been doing an activity a month, many of them focused towards a younger audience. It's the youth of India, just as it's the youth of the UK and the youth of every other country in the world, who will actually be the ones who could really make a difference in the future of our Earth. And in terms of implementing the kind of changes that are necessary to safeguard the Earth from the risk it currently faces, perhaps the greatest risk it has ever faced. So that is something that is definitely an area at the moment where I believe the youth of India and the youth of UK can come together and collaborate in many ways. And then I mentioned already in relation to the title of our principal mission here being the High Commission about the Commonwealth. Of course, India has a High Commission and not an embassy in London by the same token. And the Commonwealth is the largest body of states anywhere in the world, and also in many ways the most democratic one, in that there's 54 states, and no matter the size of the state, each one has the same power to vote. And the idea of the Commonwealth is to build consensus, and consensus around issues including climate change, which means that the next CHOGM, which is the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting that takes place normally every 2 years. The next one's been postponed. It was due to be in Kigali this summer. It's now going to take place again, inshallah, in June 2021. That will be a platform for Commonwealth countries to begin to strategize and align views ahead of the COP26. And not forgetting, of course, the Youth for Climate meeting that Italy, our partners for COP26, will be hosting prior to COP. So, that's one theme, but there's other things that matter to the Commonwealth, and one comes back to education. And during the current ongoing UK presidency of the Commonwealth, a significant amount of money was committed towards putting 12 million children into ensuring they have full 12 years of education. That's another thing that is very close to the heart of our Prime Minister, and very close to my own heart as well. Education is transformational, and there's although equally for boys and girls. There's a recognition that girls are underrepresented, both in terms of accessing education and where they do access education, staying in education, going on to further education, and truly reaching their potential. And I think, you know, the COVID crisis that we face now is one of the real risks, and that will in education, as where financial pressures come across the family. It's always the girls that are looked at either to drop out of school and go and work to supplement the family income, or as candidates for early marriage. Neither of which, you know, are good scenarios for the girls in question. So, you know, we do want to see progress on that issue as well. But there's many other things that the Commonwealth do. All the countries that are members are entitled to put forward their suggestions for the agenda, and you know, it's an idea of supporting one another. So if you don't know much about the Commonwealth, I definitely commend researching it a little bit and looking for some of the opportunities under that, including some led by some very dynamic young Indian people. There's been a series of very good online seminars being hosted by a group led by young Indians who have engaged with past and present leaders of the world, and one which I'm happy my High Commission in Delhi was able to support. And I'm sure that there'll be many more such opportunities. Definitely, I always look to amplify these things through my social media. You can find me at Andrew007 UK. You've seen the posters, you know that, on Twitter or on Instagram. Not really so much in Facebook, although I know that I'm live on there at the moment, which will give anybody that I know that sees me a shock. But I think, you know, social media is another thing which gives an opportunity for young people from India to be much more connected with their counterparts in the UK, and indeed with young people from all over the world. You know, I've come from Nigeria. I enjoyed working with young people in Nigeria, and I'm still in touch with a number of the groups that I work with there. I've connected some of them with like-minded groups here in India. And I think everybody has something to learn from somebody. I think that's really one of the messages that I would like to give. And in fact, I was talking to a Nigerian just before I came online, who said that he believes that youth aren't just tomorrow's leaders, as they've been made to believe for so long. And I think that is very true, that there is this age-driven hierarchy that exists in Nigeria. I think it's a very similar concept driven into many of the young people here in India too. But he's challenging that, and he's saying that his opinion is that they are today's leaders and partners instead in nation building and national development, which is an interesting view, and in many ways one that I agree with, because, you know, what is a leader? Do you have to be a head of an organization or a founder of an organization or elected to a position to be a leader? Actually, you don't have to be. It's the way you behave. It's the way that you go about things. It's a way that you engage people. It's a way that you give direction. It's a way that you have a passion for something that you fighting. And I'm sure that even the fact that you're taking time out today to join and listen to an old diplomat talk to you shows that you have some of those ingredients already, that you want to listen, you want to learn, you want to educate yourself more and hear different perspectives. So you're very welcome. And I don't really want to say much more than this, because I'd much rather have the interaction and the questions, and I'd much rather respond to what you want to know and what you want to ask. And I know that there are some pre-prepared questions which I will do my best to answer. But then if there's any other questions and the means to ask them, I will try to answer them. And if I can't, which is quite likely, depending on what they are, I will try to take them away and provide an answer in slightly slower time. But thank you for listening to me. And I look forward to the rest of the interaction.
Andrew, the way you share your thoughts and the way you present, I think there couldn't be a better understanding on everything that you've mentioned. You have also helped us realize that it is just not about the relationship that we're trying to build between both the countries among the young people, but it is also about how, which you mentioned on two very important aspects, that there is something to learn from everyone. And this is absolutely so right. This this attitude of learning from everyone gives us the sense of humility and makes us realize that we are still empty and there is something to be filled again. And
Yes.
and then the other one that you mentioned about leadership, I think that is something that I would personally take back with me as well. That it is not about the title, but it is about the duty and the responsibility that you feel passionate about and you want to contribute for the nation or for the society that you stay in. So thank you so much for not only sharing us with the trade relations or between the relationships that young people in India could, or maybe in UK could together come up with, but also inspiring us with your experience on two various important aspects that could help the entire young people of India who are listening with us today. And I'm sure about the COP26 and about the Commonwealth dialogue that is to happen next year, there will be a lot of young people, and I think there will be a lot of nature-based solutions that would come up as well. With us as well. There is something that Youth of India have been doing. So, whatever papers are there being used, we recycle them and make this conference folders. So these folders are made out of recycled papers and hay,
Very good.
as well. And then it is very common for young people to use these glasses as an alternative to single-use plastic, which is the mud glass or the clay glass that we're talking about. So I think these nature-based solutions and products would really go a long way while we are talking about COP26, and we are also talking about how Commonwealth nations have to come together in leading to the dialogue of climate action and then engaging more and more young people. So thank you so much, Andrew, for all that views that you've shared with us. However, Andrew, there was something that we would really like to ask about. Andrew, how do you think that what do you think are the opportunities available for the Indian youth in UK, and how can both the nations work together?
Okay, I mean, in a word, opportunities. In one word, boundless. There's boundless opportunities, but nothing really comes to you on a plate. And if you think it's going to come to you on a plate, then you'll probably spend your life being disappointed. You have to work on opportunities. You have to work on dreams. You have to work on your vision and making it a reality. And I think the more you invest in that, the more ultimately you will get back. So, I mean, for myself, I left school when I was 17. I wasn't able to go to university because A, I didn't have the money, and B, I have a disability. I have a dyslexic and dyspraxic profile. So there wasn't the support in the mid 80s for people with those profiles to learn at a higher level, really. But I had a dream of getting out into the world, of trying to help people, of trying to really make positive changes. That's something that I really wanted to do. And I took many different alternative routes, including joining what I call the University of Life and coming in 1988, as I mentioned, to India to, to actually see and feel what really was happening in such countries back at that time. In India in 1988 is an entirely different place to the India that you all know today. I'm sure your parents will tell you stories, and exactly the same even in my country. But the change in India probably has been even greater, even for more fundamental. But I had that vision, I had that dream, and fortunately, with a little bit of luck and good fortune, I've made connections and collaborations and links in many countries, including India, which, even date back to that time, that have helped me on my way and served me well. So, if you believe in something, and if you try something, it cannot do you any harm. The worst outcome is you'll learn something from it. The best outcome is infinite. It could be brilliant. It could set you up for the future. So in terms of opportunities for the youth of India in the UK, like I said, I think they're India is one of the biggest investors in the UK today. I think overall headlining as the second biggest investor in the world. There are many Indian companies operating in the UK. I talked about visas a little while ago. Let me get this bit out of the way, because I don't really like talking about visas, but we want to make mobility work for people, not just Indians, but everybody. And by the way, for India at the moment, Indians have to have a work permit if they want to take employment in the UK, as of now, as of today. And of all the work permits that we've issued to every country in the world, more than 50% have gone to Indian nationals, which just goes to show the scale of the talent in this vast and wonderful country, but also the accessibility to the British job market. That's despite the fact that as a member of the EU, and we formally leave after the end of the transition arrangements at the end of this year, we've always had to reserve spaces in the UK labour market for EU nationals. So according to the transition arrangements, at the end of this year, that finishes. At the end of this year, anybody who wants to come and work into the UK, whether they come from France, whether they come from Fiji, or whether they come from India, will need to have the same visa. So there's the same level playing field, and that will open up the market for even more jobs and even more opportunities in the UK. I believe ultimately that will definitely work in your favour as young Indians if you have that desire for work experience. And secondly, if you're fortunate enough to be in a position to be able to go and study in the UK, of course, as the representative of the UK for Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, and as all of my other colleagues in the 6 other Deputy High Commissions and the High Commissioner in Delhi will also say the UK is a brilliant place to study. And of course, we are bound to say that, but we have got 4 of the world's top 10 universities and something like 40 of the top 200. So it's backed up by some statistics. What the exciting thing I want to say about that is that a recent change, which again, I'm sure some of you that might be looking at overseas study will know, is that we have now got a new graduate route for students. So if you study in the UK and do your first degree or a master's, after you finish, you can stay for 2 more years if you wish to apply for a visa to follow on, and you can have work experience, take employment for those 2 years. And there are restrictions on what you do in that time. And in that time, you can either benefit from experience that will be invaluable when you come back to India, make you more marketable on top of the qualification that you will have obtained, or you can find one of the jobs that's available for a work permit and possibly apply to continue in England if you have one of the specialist skills that are required. And if you happen to be going to the UK to study a PhD, once you've got the PhD, you can apply for a similar visa that will be lasting for 3 years on the same basis. So I think that is one exciting area. If you happen to work in the health sector, access to the job market in the UK is also been made easier and cheaper recently with a new health and care visa that was announced just last month, in the middle of July. That information can be easily found. I won't talk about it at length. And then also another new initiative that's been announced and is yet to be implemented, but will follow soon, is a global talent scheme, a fast-track scheme for highly skilled scientists and researchers. And again, a very flexible offer because we want to double the number of fellowships and also give access to their dependents to join them in the UK and be able to take employment in the market, in the UK market as well. Because UK and India research is again a huge area for us. I will also give a shout out for UKRI, which is the UK research and innovation brand of promoting research sponsored by the UK. And India is probably its biggest area. They also have a UKRI India handle on Twitter. And again, if you're into research, it's definitely one that's worth following up on. There's often different opportunities announced there. So that's on visas. In terms of other things, let me think. What can I share with you briefly? I mean, first of all, I think we're all here together now because of technology. There's in lots of ways barriers between any two countries, and anybody having a conversation has just been eliminated in the course of all of our lifetimes, and definitely even in the course of your lifetime. This would have been unimaginable even just a few years ago, but now it's so easy to connect. And there's nothing to stop you from connecting and joining these kind of chats, in other cities, in India, but equally in other countries, including my country, the UK. And there's many similar groups, similar aspirations, young people that want to know and understand and make friendships and connections in different parts of the world. So, I commend looking into that and becoming more active on global platforms. At any one moment, there are tens of thousands of young people like you doing exactly what you're doing now and listening and engaging through this kind of platform. So do more of that. And then let me say about in terms of where your opportunity in the UK, if you decide to go to the UK and experience the UK, where it can lead. Our Chancellor, which is equivalent of the UK Finance Minister, and our Home Minister, the boss of my old department, the Home Office in the UK, they are both of Indian origin, as are 13 others of our parliamentarians. So, that's a living example, in my view, that the UK is a land of opportunity for Indian youth. And it's not just about politicians. There's many people that have gone to the UK and have also done well. You can Google Rajesh Agarwal, who is the Deputy Mayor of London for business. And he's another excellent example of an Indian youth that made the most of opportunities that became available to him by going and experiencing the UK. And there's all kinds of business people as well that you can find, you can be inspired by, all depending on what you are interested in and what you like. And I've commended you for joining this chat, but just as you can join chats, also during the lockdown, with time on your hands, there's been an opportunity to learn new skills. Some of you might have learned, like my son, a new musical instrument, or you might, like me, have learned new technology. I'm something of what they call a Luddite. I'm not very good with technology. I didn't even know what Zoom was at the start of this, and now I'm using it almost every day and, doing exactly what I'm commending to you, engaging and connecting with people in a far wider area than I could ever have done so if I was trying to jump on planes and travel around, indeed, and doing quite a lot of damage to the planet in that process. Now I'm able to reach so many more people. So by doing whatever you choose to do in this time, how you use that time is also another way in which you demonstrate your leadership. And if your focus is on the UK, there are infinite opportunities to deepen your knowledge, deepen your understanding, and deepen your connections, which can serve you very well in the future. But let me stop there because I can talk on this subject for another hour, and there's other questions.
I really didn't want you to stop. Also, for a matter of fact, there were so many opportunities that were flowing right from your mind. I mean, and the interesting part was this. I mean, as Poonam also very strongly advocated about your journey and about how vocal you are about your own experience yourself. I mean, the kind of journey that you shared about your own experience in the initial stage. And that is exactly also Poonam has said, that you have been an inspiration for her equally. And I think while you're speaking about so many aspects today, the changes in the visa system that has happened, the changes in the education, the new reforms in the health sector, or also for the research and innovation that a lot of young people in India would want to explore, which is being sponsored by the government in the UK. I think that is something, and there are so many more that you also talked about the Twitter account that individuals can go and look up to. And there are so many opportunities that are available for young people in India today. It is about, as Andrew said, it is about also making sure that you go there and search for it. Because as it is said, this internet or the digital platforms have made our lives easier. Indeed, it is a two-way sword, but it depends completely on us how we utilize it. Like, say, suppose for this entire lockdown phase, Youth of India in itself, in the last 4 months, have reached out to approximately 2 million young people on various subjects and topics of discussions and dialogues that have happened, including from localizing SDGs to also to the trade relations and partnerships that we're talking about today. And it is very crucial to understand that UK as a nation shares a cultural ties with India. I mean, as Andrew said, 13 parliamentarians are from Indian origin, including 2 ministers as well. Also, to share, if I am, Andrew knows about it, even for the COP26 president happens to be Mr. Alok Sharma, Honorable MP, who also happens to be an Indian origin coming from the state of Uttar Pradesh. So I think there's a lot more. I mean, it is just not about political system, but it is also about different aspects that can be given because the reforms that are happening, because of also the changes that have happened in the entire EU along with Britain, the reforms that are happening, it is very potentially beneficial for the young India. And I as Andrew said, let us consider challenges as not as challenges, rather as opportunities to prove our worth. So I think it is a good time to engage both the young nations of both the countries together and making sure that we lead forward as to how to guide the entire world on the localizing of SDGs as well, and making sure that the sustainability continues. Andrew, however, we would have another question for you, something that I have been waiting to ask to you as well. And you said about the country and about its magnanimity in India. So kindly share your experiences in India, and what about this nation mesmerizes and inspires you?
Well, lots of people come to India. There's a saying, isn't there? Visit India once and you're destined to return again and again, or something like that. And I always remember reading about that saying before I came to India in 1988 and traveling around Kashmir, Ladakh, Shimla, Delhi and Agra. At that time, in the middle of summer, it was very hot in Agra. I remember visiting there and feeling like I was dancing on hot coals. In those days, you weren't even allowed to wear socks in the place, and it was 117, I think the temperature was that July day. My God. But I think from the first moment I came here, I was really inspired by India. And I've been lucky to, through subsequent visits, which I've had periodically over the years, and then being blessed to have the chance to come and live and work here. I've been to many, many places. I've seen many, many things. And it's almost impossible to say which of those places are the best. You know, Hampi, Puri, Jaipur, Uday, kinds of places that I visited in Delhi and Mumbai, Goa, and so on and so on. And so I'm not going to pick any of them because they're not really what excite me, to be honest. I'm privileged and I'm lucky to be able to visit them, surely. And I savor every one of those trips. And I could talk about the food of India, of course, which is another huge topic. And I've tried so many delightful regional dishes on my travels, and even here in Hyderabad, which has gone from being a sleepy retirement town to this big, dynamic global city. There are people from every corner of the subcontinent, and again, they're always inviting me to try their food or sending me boxes of sweets and other delicacies. So I could talk about the food as well and say that's something that really mesmerizes me, but again, it doesn't. The reality and the answer to the question is exactly the kind of people that are on this call. It's the youth of India, because speaking to the youth as I do in my job, as I try to do even in my free time, understanding their worries and their concerns and their hopes, their engagement on issues like climate change, on the issue of interfaith, i.e. mutual respect for people regardless of what their background is, their curiosity to understand diversity, what diversity means, and to celebrate the difference between us, and so many other things. Their concern of the disparity between there being some people who are extremely wealthy and comfortable and other people are living on the streets each day of their life, almost has them hanging in the balance. These kind of issues, that really do worry and keep young people awake at night, give me the hope and belief that truly India is a country which is going to grow and improve. And not only is that going to benefit India, it's going to benefit the world, because India is going to be a global leader, undoubtedly in the future. And it's you, people like you, tomorrow's leaders, that are going to have that influence and that are going to bring to bear some of these changes that affect not only the life of your fellow Indians, but the life of people all over the world. And hopefully that's a better, more equal and more peaceful life that will benefit more people, and we'll really see an acceleration in issues like poverty reduction, and equally importantly, in my own heart, gender equality as well, which again is something that is extremely unequal, not only here, but just about everywhere.
This is so right, Andrew, and I really reconcile with what you, and echo your what you mentioned about how important it is about equality and the issues like education. And I was part of your Twitter chat recently on safety, and I think the points and the aspects that you have mentioned about the equality. I mean, it is just not, and equality should be there in every sector, in every space, and for everyone. It is just, I mean, as very rightly that you have pointed out, and it is very true. I mean, what you said, that is very important as young India and the youth of India to take up the baton, while we see that India as a nation is going to be as a nation which is going to guide, lead, or become a global leader. And it is absolutely right that it is an essential aspect on how India as a whole. But then we cannot overlook the fact that the mesmerizing food and the culture that you have experienced. And I welcome you wholeheartedly to the foothills of Darjeeling, where the place that I come from.
I would love to go there. I haven't been there yet.
So now you have a friend, and we have an entire young group waiting for you to host you here. So moving ahead, Andrew, there's two more questions that is coming up. Also, we would want to make sure that we don't take you much with us as well because of the schedule that you have.
No. I have all the time you need. Don't worry.
Thank you. Pleasure is ours. Thank you. Andrew, you have spent a couple of years in India now. So how do you see India could benefit the people in UK? That is one aspect that is coming up. But on the other aspect, I would also like to understand and hear more from you. What do you think that we need to improvise or work upon in getting more investments, in attracting more people, maybe either in terms of education in the future? What is your opinion and your suggestions for the youth of India specifically?
Okay. Let me think. I mean, first of all, India is, like I said earlier, India is one of the UK's most important friends and allies. And like I've said, the economy of India has grown hugely, but it will continue to grow. And that will improve at a pace according to which things like gender equality is accelerated. You know, if you look at the most successful companies in the world, the highest proportion of the ones that on this FTSE 400 list or whatever are the ones which have gender parity in their boardrooms. In India, unfortunately, I think in general, it's still a very patriarchal society, and it's very male dominated at the top. If the gender equality can be cracked quicker, and I speak, with the experience, of my own life of growing up in the 60s in the UK when I was born. It was a very similar landscape to the one I'm talking about here now. Whereas in the UK, I mean, I'm not saying that we have cracked it. We have still got a long way to go, but the number of boardrooms now in our biggest companies where there is gender parity is far, far higher, and the benefits are being reaped. And when you think that half of all your potential customers are women, why would you not want to have that strength of a woman's perspective in thinking about your marketing, what you're going to offer, everything, your customer service, all of this. There are subtle differences, and there is an impact that can be made. So, I mean, I would say that's one area that that can be worked on here. And and equally, I think there's a challenge about women leaders in the political sphere as well. In many states, the percentage of women is extremely low. I came here from Nigeria, where it was even lower. There is reservation for women up to a certain level, but when you get to MLA and above, you see the number of women drop drastically. And even sometimes I've noticed where women have got these positions, it's their husband who stands behind them. Too much. A woman leader, the woman should be able to lead, not be controlled by somebody else. I had a really good conversation with one woman corporator from Hyderabad recently about this, who is supported by her husband, but he's very much a role model, and he very much lets her lead, and she has aspirations, and I'm sure many young female politicians do. So it's encouraging and supporting that as well. That's one area that I think India can improve, but I'm not picking on India. It's, again, as I've said, a global challenge. Let me think. One thing I can say about the COVID situation, I haven't really talked about COVID very much, but one area where the benefit of India has really been brought home to the British people is the support we've had during the COVID times in getting some of the medical supplies that we need. You know that Hyderabad makes 1 in 3 of the world's vaccines, but more generally in India, there's so many other products made that go into the healthcare sector, from drugs like paracetamol you know, 2.8 million packets of paracetamol were approved to be sent to the UK during the COVID times. It was one of the first exports of paracetamol after limitations were put on, and my government were extremely grateful for the Indian government's support in that respect. And similarly, 11 million face masks have come from India to the UK since the outbreak of COVID. So that's been you know, phenomenal numbers, and you know, has really brought home to my compatriots just what a contribution India makes on a global scale in areas that, you know, before January, February of this year, they would have known just about nothing about it all. But elsewhere, you know, we have strong economic ties in areas like technology and business services. Overall, the trade between our countries hit £24 billion in 2019, which was a 10% increase in just 1 year. And it's only going to grow. I mean, this year we may see a blip, as will these kind of figures across the globe. But the trajectory overall is going to continue to see that rise. Just a couple of weeks ago, the United Kingdom and India's Joint Economic and Trade Committee met. That had publicity in the press. I won't talk about it in detail, but you can Google JETCO and read numerous reports about that. But it was an extremely positive and upbeat meeting. The communique, I think, that came out after that showed real ambition to grow that trade relationship between the UK and India. And that, you know, that has to work mutually in both directions, like any important bilateral relationship must do. And I think, you know, there is the desire and the commitment on both sides. Definitely on the UK side, I've talked about the significant number of influential politicians who are of Indian origin to really make this work. So the focus on India is probably never been more significant in a generation than it is now. So that's another area which I think is inspiring. And you know, if you're a young person, I would be looking at the UK in terms of one of your options, somewhere to understand better and, you know, take up the resources that are available to you. I don't know if that answers your question enough, or if you want me to go on, but I'll stop there for now.
Yeah, it does. I think the ways that you're mentioning and putting out the points, it just reminds me of what strongly Indian values and cultures really stands for. You know, something that I would really, that I have learned growing up is about yatra naryaste pujyante ramanta tatra devta. Yatra suste na pujyante sarvastra phalehe kriya. And this exactly talks about the gender parity and the gender issues that we're talking about, the equality that we're talking about. It says where women are honored, divinity blossoms there, and where it is dishonored, all action remains unfruitful. And I think it is just not for India to make sure, it's just not for India to make sure once again we believe in it, but also to understand that it is really important that yes, sensitivity, being a gender sensitivity is really important, just not for India as a whole, but for the entire world to grow together and lead together. And very rightly, Andrew, you have once again pointed out the trade relations between both the nations of 24 billion pounds in just 1 year. It only opens up the kind of opportunities that are available for the entire youth community here. And definitely, you know, not taking much, just one final question, Andrew. That's something that something is very close to our heart, and we would like to personally ask you. Could you share about the UK Pact, about the Green Recovery Challenge Fund, and how it is going to enhance the innovation among youth of India, and maybe strengthen partnerships among both the nations as we are going to lead, as UK is going to lead the COP26 next year?
Okay, this one I have to admit I had to research a little bit. I'm not the expert, much as I'm passionate about what COP26 is hoping and aspiring to do and achieve and it can only achieve it with the support of friends like India, I might say. But the UK-backed Green Recovery Challenge Fund is a £12 million capacity building fund to support low carbon transitions and a green resilient economic recovery across a number of countries in South Asia, Africa, Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, Far East. So it's going to disperse this £12 million over the period of the next 2 years on projects that will help countries accelerate their low carbon transition. And what the panel that will decide on that dispersal are looking for, in essence, are for innovative ideas that address specific low carbon challenges and show measurable results, and promote social inclusion and inspire future actions to increase climate ambition at scale while supporting countries to rebuild their economies after the impact of the COVID pandemic. So applications will be open to international and local NGOs and civil society organizations, as well as research institutes and private sector companies. And each project has the potential to be awarded as much as £500,000 over the course of the 12-month implementation period. So the kind of activities that we expect to include here include enhancing skills in key institutions by providing relevant training, recommendations of new policies or tools to accelerate emission reductions, creating knowledge and communication products. So by that, I'm talking about research papers, and strengthening networks of key actors to drive climate change. So, I mean, these are the kind of areas that I've come to understand the pact is looking for. I think it's really exciting. If you do have more interest on that, again, there is a fair amount of resource online that you can refer to. You know, I'm pleased that my government have led the example. I think we've gone 67 days without burning any fossil fuels to power the UK, which is a record for the UK since the Industrial Revolution, when, you know, more or less, you know, throughout my childhood, all of our power nearly was generated by coal. That's been reduced, and the idea that fossil fuels are cheaper than alternatives is increasingly by the day being demystified. So I think this is an area that has huge potential, and I'm really excited that you thought to ask about this particular question as part of your session today. So thank you very much for that. And there's one other point I wanted to make. I just read something. Just give me 1 second to see if I can find it. I read something today that I thought I must share with you, but it hasn't sunk in my head yet. Yes. So building on what I just said about the 67 days of being coal-free, yesterday in the UK, 59.1% of Britain's electricity was supplied solely by wind power. And, you know, that's another amazing achievement. I mean, the UK is a pretty windy place. Anyone who's been there will realise that. But there are points in India which are equally very good for harvesting wind as a source of energy, particularly the states of Gujarat and Tamil Nadu. There is going to be a conclave on renewable energy in the 5 southern states which I will be publicizing on my social media a little bit later this year, probably starting in November and running into early 2021 as part of our ongoing preparation for COP. So if you're interested in that theme, do keep an eye out. You'll be able to join, register to join those sessions if that's something that interests you, and also have an opportunity to ask questions of the speakers.
Thank you so much, Andy, for sharing what strongly UK stands for, even including the climate action and the contributions that is happening. I mean, I'm completely amazed, and I'm sure a lot of young people and who are watching us and would be watching us in this dialogue. About 59% of electricity being supplied by wind energy. It just reminds me that how UK and India together are contributing towards the using of renewable sources of energy, including the Shakti Shala, which the government of India recently launched, which is a 2,000 megawatt park named Shakti Shala, which is spread across 13,000 acres in the state of Karnataka. And further than the International Solar Alliance that was initiated by the Prime Minister, which is now being signed by approximately 150 plus countries, realizing the importance of solar energy, and where UK was a strong partner and supporter of the alliance as well. It only commits that the world leadership is now thinking that it is necessary that the climate action is a key aspect, because climate somehow is a cross-cutting agenda and theme for every goals of SDGs as well that we talk about. I take this privilege to share with all our audience that what Youth of India as a whole is doing on contributing for climate action and then leading up to COP26. I will quickly share a 2-minute video to you as well, Andrew, and to all our viewers, so that
हम भारत को सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक, हम प्लास्टिक को विदाई देने की दिशा में 2 अक्टूबर को पहला मजबूत कदम उठा सकते हैं। घर में प्लास्टिक या बाहर चौराहे पर पड़ा हो गंदी ना सब इकट्ठा करें। We call
championing a very important cause.
one particular problem that we selected was climate action with Goal 13. We started working on the plastic movement to eliminate the single-use plastic as advised by our Prime Minister of India.
The young person myself,
United Nations had the Youth Climate Summit for the first time, and they invited me as a green ticket.
So this is what Andrew, I think entire youth of India pledges to in eliminating single-use plastic and in making sure that we take local actions to regional, national, and then at the global level as well. So I think the discussion that we have had today has been really inspiring, Andrew. I mean, there are a lot of things that we would in future also would like to learn more from you, or if there is anything that Youth of India could support, strengthen the initiative that UK in Hyderabad is doing, we would be more than happy to do it, because your honesty, your clarity of thoughts really inspires a lot of us who are listening, especially on the India's qualities and the youth of India's potential that lies with both these nations together, and especially on the common issues of gender equality, the education, and the global issues, including strengthening for the Security Council positioning, and which now the India has a non-permanent member seat and also going to be presidency for this year. I think it is also important, as you mentioned, about the climate research and innovation, and further looking forward to strengthening the cultural ties that both these nations have, and just taking it ahead by the youth partnerships being inspired and led by leaders and people like you. So thank you so much, Andrew, for all that you have been here with us and for sharing your message and inspiring and guiding us. Would you have any final message for all the young viewers who are watching you today?
Well, I can say that, first of all, I've really enjoyed it. I thought the questions were very thoughtful. I'd love to continue to be engaged with your group. My friend, I call her my sister, Poonam, who connected us. You know, she really is another very inspiring person. I'm sure she's also spoken to you at some point in the past, and probably will again in the future. And she's somebody that I have much admiration for. I think that you know, I encourage you, like I said, to think of yourself as a leader and to acquire the skills that you need. Be focused on what you want to do in life and what you want to achieve. And if you don't know what that is yet, that doesn't matter. You can spend your time exploring and looking, and maybe working towards something and coming to the point that actually this isn't what I want. It's perfectly okay as you grow to change your mind, to change your opinion, and to change your direction. But I think, you know, what you should do with courage, and you should do with conviction. But I do say to everybody that this is definitely the generation where we all need to be two things. We all need to be climate change gladiators. You know, seriously, the world has run out of opportunities. This is the opportunity, the last opportunity we have to take steps to drastically change the way we lead our lives. And maybe COVID has helped in giving that opportunity. You know, the fact that we see more birds, more wildlife outside since this COVID pandemic, because there's less cars on the road and so on, is just one of many indicators. And the sky over Hyderabad is blue far more often than it ever used to be. I know that's the same in Delhi. I know people have said they've seen distant hills they haven't seen for years. I think that's, you know, that's really important. And the other issue which I've spoken about here and I tweet about a lot is gender equality. They said that it would take 257 years to achieve parity between men and women at an event I spoke at earlier this week. 257 years. That is appalling by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know what the gender mix on this call is, but whether you're a boy or a girl, man or a woman, you should also be appalled by that. And if you're not, you should ask yourself why you are not appalled by that figure. But look, there is an opportunity to change that too. Just as I've talked about having leaders in boardrooms, equally, we need leaders in making policies, leaders in making government policies. And again, those leaders need to be more balanced. At the moment, it's a far more male-dominated area. You know, perhaps all of the challenges women face around security, around healthcare, particularly sexual reproductive health and the issues around that, around education, and around the risk they face disproportionately of domestic violence, and around their access to technology in the home. All these things, women lag far behind men in terms of either their access or their vulnerability. These things have to be changed, and perhaps having been through this very difficult 6 months, it's a wake-up call again that we need to really address some of these things and do it much faster than we have wanted to do before. So follow your passion and follow your belief. Believe those in those two things. And I'll end with my favorite quote, which is my pin quote on Twitter, but which I often say to people when you conduct yourself and deal with other people. And remember my point about everybody you meet is a learning opportunity, but always approach people with humility and with compassion. Never look down on someone, but actually think, if you find somebody that you feel uncomfortable with, or whatever the feeling you may have, try to put yourself in that person's shoes. Try to put yourself in that person's position. If somebody asks you a question you're outraged about, don't show that you're outraged about it. Think, why are they asking me that question? What situation might drive me? What situation might drive me to ask to borrow 1,000 rupees? How bad can the situation be if I have that kind of request of somebody that I believe that can help me, for example? So the saying which comes from Maya Angelou, one of my heroes, an African-American poet and writer. And again, if you don't know Maya Angelou, you should. And please go and Google her afterwards. Angelou is the spelling of her surname. Maya is Maya. She's written many poems, one of which is I Rise. Please go and read that poem. It's a really inspiring gender-based poem. I highly commend. But she also has lots of sayings, and the one that I really love is, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Go forth with those things in your mind and be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for the final message. And it really inspires all of us. Thank you once again for joining in this Youth Ki Baat dialogue, and to all of you who have joined it. Thank you.